when you're asking for 5 million or 2 million, you're ensuring yourself that you have a protected company that's been in the business and doesn't have any risk of not being in the business by the end of your project. We talked about specifications when we moved on from drawings. What they are is the how and the what of what's going on. The drawings are a visual representation of what we're drawing, and the specs are telling you the quality of workmanship, the methods that are to be used, the types of testing requirements that you need to have. And so that book of specifications is the tool that tells you how that project is expected to be delivered and what standards need to be met for all the components of the project. We talked about the divisions, 49 divisions, 3 sections, 3 parts. Do you remember those? That was the bonus assignment, right? Looking up the divisions, looking up the sections. What are the 3 parts? That's an easy 3 marks. 3 parts of the master spec. It was the bonus question of the bonus assignment. Sleepy wheels, sleepy. General, part 1.
Supplementary.
Products, part 2. Execution, part 3. So here's a question. The exterior wall finish material would be described in what part of the specs? Which one? Product. Section 2. You're going to say, this is the material that I'm going to use. I could ask, what part of the specs would the condition of the air barrier be? The requirements of the air barrier, where it has to meet a 25% water permeability. Or an execution. Yeah, because the air barrier is whatever, but how it gets installed and what it has to produce gets repeated in the execution. That's when you actually do the install. So that's products. Again, remember, these are the divisions. The sections are general products and executions. And in those parts, you have a lot of different sections in those parts. I posted this on the info, but you'll see in part 1, it says general, but it gives you definitions, project conditions, schedules. Part 2 gives you the manufacturers, the products, materials, equipment, everything you need. And part 3 is how it works, how it gets tested, how you say it's a pass, what you are actually executing. 3 things you would include under Division 1. Name 1. Anything. It's general information about the project. That's what you would put in General 1. How I pay, how I submit, where I submit, what do I need? It's general information. You could put anything around here. Price and payment procedures. You remember the definition of different types of specs? Prescriptive and performance? Anybody remember that? Think of prescriptive like a prescription. It's exactly what I want. I want Tyvek as a barrier. Versus performance, where I need a 200 milligram pill to get rid of a headache. I could take Tylenol, I could take Advil, I can take an Aleve, I can take other things because it just has to perform in the same way, where I get a choice. So prescriptive is actually telling you, exactly what is needed. Performance is telling you what is required from the product, and you can choose. So, I might ask you for, example of each. Can you guys give me an example of one? Example of a prescriptive in this project in your house? Example of performance, do you have one?
Like 20 megapascal concrete with like maybe 30% aeration
Is
would be prescriptive.
prescriptive,
Yeah.
yes. Kind of.
Would that be performance?
It would, oh,
What would be half and half? Air entrainment would be prescriptive, but the MK would be performance.
First of, I mean, when you use concrete, it's usually under performance. Concrete's concrete, it's not like you're shopping around for different types, you know, but you're saying it has to meet the strength of 20 MPa, and it has to meet this aeration or water content, and so it's a performance, that's how it has to perform. What's a prescriptive one?
Like bricks need like anchor ties.
Yeah, you just say, what brand did you say?
What?
What did you say first, before anchor ties?
Bricks.
Oh, bricks or anchor ties.
It's like the, like brand.
Oh, I thought you said the brand of, anchor ties.
so like the brand would be prescriptive?
Like if you said, I want R12 insulation, that has this specific information on it, that's a very prescriptive thing, that I don't shop around for insulation.
Wouldn't that be performance though, if you're talking about the R value of
No, it's
insulation?
not performance. When you shop for, it's R12, R20, that's a prescriptive. Performance is more on things that have to perform after it's installed. How do you know it's 20 MPa concrete? Is you come in and you do a slump test and you figure out it's 20 MPa. You don't buy 20 MPa concrete off the shelf. You buy R12 insulation off the shelf. That's why it's very prescriptive. Performance is just not naming the product. Prescriptive does, most of the time, tell you what product. It will tell you bare paint, eggshell, quality, and, this white color. You don't wonder what you're buying, or what you're bidding, or what you're trying to get a quote for, or cost for. There's proprietary. I explained that one to you. It's the ones that you guys noticed some of your finish schedules, where you know the product, the company doesn't wanna tell you the performance features or the prescriptive features. So you go to the Terrazzo store, you buy the Terrazzo blue tile, and it's, on them to meet the specifications. We did a geothermal bridge out in, Harrow, in North Branch, Cedar Creek. We put geothermal, system in there. The engineer didn't want that released in public, he didn't want to share his design. So we made it proprietary, that the engineer is saying it's going to meet all the specs, it's going to meet all the codes, but we're not sharing that information. Closed proprietary don't allow substitutions, there's open proprietary that does allow options when the market changes, so those are the difference in types. What are the 4 C's? And how do you write your specs?
Conscious, concise,
Concise,
consideration, consume,
nobody knows?
consistent, clear, conjugate.
Clear, complete, concise, correct. And we went through, there's a whole, again, you guys weren't in class. Right? What did you review?
The wrong C's,
English class.
The difference between the specification and the schedule? schedule's just a spreadsheet listing all the specs. What you've done in essence with those finished schedules is take all the specs that are in words and you put it on a spreadsheet so people can see, oh, these are the paint, specifically what I'm using.
So we took the specs and made a schedule.
You know, in the real world, you didn't have specs in this case.
What
I
were
could
the
create specs from your schedule. Right now, if you gave me your schedule of, interior finishes, I could start to write all my specs to meet those requirements. You can go one way or the other. The specs are words, they're in sections by those master formats, and when we're talking about finishes in part 9 of the, specs, it's gonna go through all those finishes that you listed, and then you summarized it with pictures on a schedule. So again, that's the package, you have your drawings, it says, hey, build me this house, you have specs that says what you're gonna do and all the conditions of building that house, and the schedules are visual, representation for the contractors who are actually building your house, so they can grab the plumbing and they can see where to install the toilets and where they go and where the lights go and everything else. That whole package works together for a construction project. This will be 4 marks. Give me things you would consider when picking finishes. You can pick any of these answers. That'd be 4 points. Again, you guys realize that custom versus pre-designed, your estimates can be very tremendously. Flooring can range from 11,000 to 44,000 for the same square footage, depends what you pick. So making sure we're clear on what we're estimating is important. We talked about labor. I'm not gonna put any, it says I should, but I'm not gonna put any labor, calculations. And I probably only have 1 or 2 questions on labor costs, but what would you consider when you're trying to estimate labor? What are some of the factors that you think about it? Like, how much is it gonna cost for somebody to build the basement walls?
Work efficiency, like you said, 40 minutes, well, you only work for like an hour, but that's only like 40 minutes of productivity.
Yep.
And then,
Productivity,
Like really wet.
climate, weather. Right? Working conditions, are you in a tight Toronto subdivision, are you in a big, but when you do that, what we call it, or adjusted range. Again, so when you're estimating, you have to have some application of knowledge for what you're building so that you can adjust your costs accordingly. What would be some example general expenses on a project?
gas, electricity, hydro, and then, like if you need an on-site bathroom, you need on-site, like if you need
Yep.
security as well.
Temporary porta-johns, temporary utilities, just to get going.
Security.
Because again, we're just estimating the home, but you have to barricades, you have to repair the road, the curbs, if you have to set up a detour, cleaning, all those are typically extra general. Usually they're in a lump sum, somebody would just put $10,000 general expenses, they don't have to work it out. And then they put a contingency cost, about 10%. And that's how you kind of capture all the costs. So you've done all your estimates for your, materials, your workmanship, excavating, building the frame of the house, finishing the home, getting that labor part, and then having all those just generic expenses. So that's the story of the class, that's why this will be probably more just understanding how that gets delivered. What's the difference between a direct and an indirect cost?
Like direct is one that's planned.
Planned?
Yeah, and the indirect is something that just happens unexpected.
That's foreseen and unforeseen.
That's what you asked for.
Direct and indirect.
It doesn't say indirect.
Something that's planned is something that you can expect, and something that you didn't know is unforeseen, so that's the total cost. A direct cost versus indirect cost. the direct ones are the materials, the labor, the equipment, the ones exactly related to the construction. And indirect are the insurance, the cost for me to get that bid bond together, the paperwork, and all the other, office expenses, for example. But they're not directly related to the audit and the action. So for roofing, I might just ask terminology. Do you remember the terminology? Or actually, I might ask, yeah, this type of construction adds height to the exterior wall to allow space for insulation.
Like, you gap the insulation in the actual thing, so
Yeah.
it's air into the actual building for filtration.
The space to be able to put insulation is called
This is gonna raise roofs and stuff.
raised heel.
So it's like,
This part right here is called the raised heel. It's on your drawings, and it allows space for that insulation. So that will be a question. You don't have to think about it. This is a question. Anybody know the difference between slope and pitch?
what?
This is degrees.
Well, you, okay, what's slope?
Oh,
Rise
something
over
over.
run.
Rise over run, so
Yeah.
what's pitch?
The degrees, like the actual angle of which it is.
Kind of, not, well,
Run over
what is it?
runs.
Basic words. Span, rise over span. That's the pitch. When I say 412, 812, pitch. No? No, that's surprising.
No.
What are some common mistakes made?
Having Ricky.
Having what?
We do it in the most, having me in the group, that's what it said.
Ignoring your miscalculating the quantities, that was number one, right? Underestimating your labor. I was just speaking with some old coworkers that their new estimators are at 50% error, the ones they just hired. It's tragic how poor the estimating has become. And that's with AutoCAD getting, fed right into the Revit, or right into the software that gives you the quantities, it gives you the numbers, and you're still at 50% error over actual. It's sad.
It's like we look.
Starts at 4. I heard somebody, you don't wanna say, I can be here from 3:30 if everybody's here. It should be only an hour. I'll give you up to an hour and a half. Huh?
So,
I won't start, I'll start right at 4, earlier if the entire class is in attendance.
What if we're missing like 2 people?
4,
Facts, but
Should we just like schedule for 3:30 then?
I can't.
Well, that's only if
It's a
everybody
violation of the
knows.
college. I can't formally schedule it, but I can informally say I'll be here.
Can you send out like a poll through like email to see like if everybody will like show up, like if you all vote on it?
Nope. I can't.
Will you say,
I
that
could-
it will
Can I
start at
send out a
3:30
poll?
if
I
everybody's
will,
here?
I will say this, I will say exam starts at 4, I will be ready to start at 3:30 if everybody's available.
Okay, so people are gonna show up at 4.
I can't do it, I don't
I know.
feel like getting in trouble. Well, I need one person to say, start at half an hour early. Can't do it. Any questions?
Are you posting any review on Blackboard?
I wasn't.
Not at all.
Oh, you're not posting
Are there
this?
calculations? There's an, yeah, we will.
Send no pictures.
I would have moved so much.
No pictures.
Just definitely sit down.
Let's see if I can learn Scantron a little.
Nothing on like wall, no calculations for like wall framing?
The little blank there,
Alright.
that's 10.
Bro, what's a king stud?
It's the one on the side.
Facts. It's definitely one of them.
I know it's the one like.
It's the biggest one.
You guys play cards?
What's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, Jack, Dan,
Yeah. You didn't have Jack stud on the picture.
that's
It was a
pretend.
cripple
Uh,
stuff.
gotcha. We did that in construction last semester. If you have
Yeah,
your
it's in the
papers
same
still.
thing.
Yeah, Jack Stud's the
Jack-
one
Jack
outside
Cripple-
of
Cripple
the
Jack?
door that goes all the way up to the roof. Or the
The
double
header.
top plate.
Header's the big one.
No, the Jack Stud is the one that goes into the header.
The,
It's a cripple stuff, man.
The
Purple
cripple's one
studs
on
are
top
underneath
of
the
it.
windows or above each door.
and then top, top plates on the
And
bottom.
below like the window.
It's the top. It's the
What's the one on the bottom of the window called? Lintel. No, it's not.
Soul plates on the bottom.
That's the bottom.
Couple studs are what are in between.
No, but what's the one at the bottom of the window?
Purple studs.
The windowsill?
So look, Jack's the.
No, the one going across.
Soul?
It's the top plate.
No, the window, right?
Soul plate?
Silk.
What?
No, I said that. I said that first. I said that
That's from earlier.
And this, you wanna hear a story?
No.
We were in Detroit this morning, and Isaac tried to carry me across the street, and he dropped me in the middle of the street. You see his legs bleeding, that's why,
Why were you in Detroit?
for a field trip.
Yeah, we'd like a.
Because what happens in Detroit stays in Detroit.
We visited Avon.
I mean, on it.
She just told the whole, everybody. So it doesn't
That's
stay.
Vegas.
I tripped on a pothole. It was really deep.
They need to fix those roads.
Facts.
Can't
They're
have
better than ours.
Detroit.
They're not like, nah, facts.
The king studs on the outside of the jack.
That's what I said.
And it goes all the way up
That's
to
what I
the
said.
double top
Top to
plate,
bottom.
which is also what I said.
Yeah.
We got that one part.